Municipal Statutory Plan Process, Representative McCarthy Vahey and Erin Kemple, if she's on. So Erin's going to give the report. And just a reminder that if anyone's speaking, if you just please identify yourself first. Thank you.
Hi, Erin Kemple, Executive Director of the Connecticut Fair Housing Center and co-chair of the State and Municipal Statutory Plan Process Subcommittee. The committee met on March 3rd as its first convening. One of the things that we did at that point, at that meeting, in addition to introductions, was get an excellent presentation by OPM regarding the statutory and regulatory underpinnings of the POCD, or Plan of Conservation and Development. That included some history. So changes have been made to the statute and regulations which require the creation of a plan of conservation and development, including how changes have impacted the development of the plan and the use of the plan. One of the things that we discussed with OPM was the need for more collaboration among state agencies and others who are affected by the POCD, as well as a discussion about the mapping and digital imaging, which at one point were a big part of the POCD. That has since faded. It has not been part of it lately, but there was some discussion about how to bring that in. We also discussed the questions that we want to answer as part of our work. One of them was, how prescriptive can or should the POCD be? And if it is not prescriptive, what is the point or the goal of having a POCD? Another issue that we need to address is the relationship between the state POCD and other planning documents like municipal POCDs and the con plan that recipients of HUD funding are required to create. Another issue to be looked at and addressed is when the state POCD and other planning documents conflict. How are those conflicts resolved and who makes that decision? Another issue is what happens when the POCD is not followed. And in order to try to address that, the next several meetings that we're going to have, we'll hear from state agencies about their plans and how they think those plans relate to the state POCD. We want to hear from regional and municipal planning organizations, as well as talking with other states about how they do their work. And finally, we are hoping to do a joint meeting with the Consolidated Housing Plan subgroup about the potential impact of consolidated housing planning and the POCD. Our next meeting is on Thursday, April 14th from 4 until 5:30 p.m. We will be holding it by Zoom, and we'll also be discussing whether or not we will be holding future meetings in person or by Zoom. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Erin. Representative, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, Martin. And I know we've got a little bit of feedback. Did that help? No, we still have feedback issues. I just want to say, I'll try again. Maybe I won't have anything to say.
You want to talk loud and use my mic?
Oh, yeah. This is Kristen McCarthy Vahey, State Rep and Co-Chair of the Planning and Development Committee. And thank you, Martin, for letting me use your mic. I don't know what's going on with that one. I just wanted to say thank you to Aaron. I thought that was an excellent summary of the work, and you can see that we have our work cut out for us. And I know at some point we'll be talking about our dates for this group, but just wanted to point out it's a tremendous conversation that we have ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions for this work group? Okay. Seeing none, thank you both very much. Next committee is Model Code and Design Development, Representative Zulu and David Barkin. Are either of them on?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm on. So this is David Barkin.
Thank you.
I'm the DAS designee and co-chair. We are having our inaugural meeting this Thursday, so we really don't have anything to report at this time that I'm aware of.
I'm just going to add actually that Mr. Barkin circulated a very appropriate outline of our what we're hoping to accomplish at our first meeting, including analyzing what we're charged with and actually discussing some current form-based zoning regulations in use as a springboard for further discussions. I'm also hoping that we'll be setting our dates for future meetings, which will probably have to be relatively aggressive given our late start, but I know we're up to the task, and we will certainly be reporting back with a finished product at some point, or at least something substantive to report to the working group.
Thank you, Representative Zulu.
Terrific. Thank you, Representative and David, for that. Any questions for that group? Okay. Then we will move on to the State Consolidated Housing Plan, Representative Williams and Kylie Goslin.
Hi, everyone. Kylie Goslin here, the Partnership for Strong Communities, and I'm co-chairing this work group with Representative Williams. I will just share we had our first meeting late last month on the 24th of March. We use that time to really ground ourselves and review the charge, as the prior group was discussing they were going to do. And then we had a presentation from Mike Santoro with the Department of Housing on what the State Consolidated Housing Plan is, sort of the history of it, how it came about, what the public input process is, what the plan is designed to do. We also spent some time talking about the current guidelines for the plan, how those are set forth. It's really the Code of Federal Regulations and HUD that have outlined what is in there. And so we'll spend some time in our next meeting getting into some more specifics about what the plan does. Our group has some homework that I assigned them. So if they're listening, I'll remind them of their homework. Their homework is to read the current plan, which is lengthy, as well as some of the federal regulations and other documents that are informative to the plan, and to report back prior to our next meeting with some areas of potential focus that they think would be worth exploring for expansion or other recommendations to the working group. So our next meeting is on, let's see, April 21st, and then we have another one on May 12th scheduled. We may have to schedule some additional ones depending on how conversations go. Our meetings right now are scheduled for Zoom, although we said we would talk at our next meeting about possibly trying to meet in person for May. So that's where we are at this point.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Martin, I just had a question. Will can the consolidated housing plan be added to the webpage for the commission that we have there, just so everybody has easy access to it? I don't know, Kylie, if you've sent it around to your committee members, but might be helpful for everybody to at least have access to it.
I did share the link with our group, and Alex sent out another follow-up email to our group, so I can forward that back to you all to include for the larger working group or the larger commission. It's on the DOH website as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to municipal affordable housing plans, Representative Lamar and Tim Hollister. Tim, I don't know if you're going to speak first. I don't know if representative's on, so.
Representative Lamar is in Finance Caucus right now, so he is not joining us right now.
Okay, thank you, Representative Rojas. I'm Tim Hollister, co-chair with Representative Lamar of the Affordable Housing Plans Working Group, which includes commission members Lamont Daniels, Betsy Guerra, Kylie Goslin, Representative Lamar, and myself. And we have 20 additional members, wonderfully diverse group of occupations and geographic representation around the state and perspectives on housing needs. We have met 3 times for an hour each. On March 3rd, we had an organizational meeting where we introduced ourselves to each other and identified some of the information sources available, such as where copies of the housing plans that have already been done by municipalities are posted and available. So we recognized from the start that we all have a lot of reading to do. March 17th, the group got what I'll call a primer on the 4 documents that we are directed to follow by the public act that established the commission, those being the Zoning Enabling Act, as amended by Public Act 2129, 830G, the State Consolidated Housing Plan, and the State Plan of Conservation and Development. Last Thursday, we had a really excellent panel presentation about how a town goes about creating an affordable housing group and carrying out an affordable housing plan. Jocelyn Ayer from Northwest Connecticut, Glenn Chalder, planning consultant, Don Poland, planning consultant, and Jeremy Ginsburg from the town of Darien gave us about a 40-minute panel discussion and just delivered a lot of wisdom in a very short time. We're going to meet again this Friday and then April 21st, May 12th, May 26th, June 3rd and 23rd. And the focus of our next at least meeting or 2 will be a preliminary discussion about what our eventual report should contain. We sort of go back and forth between how much education and how much thinking and drafting about the topic at hand, but we're going to try to tackle that in our next meeting. Just 2 comments, sort of gloss on what we're doing. The first is, at our first meeting, we recognized that the timing problem that we discussed here at our first meeting, which is that under existing state law, towns are writing their plans right now, and they're supposed to deliver them by June of 2022. And of course, our guidance document will come out after that time. So I think we made a collective decision to just embrace that situation, to use the plans that are being filed as our laboratory, if you will, identify the do's and don'ts, and understand where we can build on and improve upon what's being filed already. Second is, we are very cognizant of the fact that there are some guidance documents out there already. And we tried to say, well, why is what we're doing different or an opportunity for an improvement? I think the starting point is that there were some real changes in the law, in land use law last legislative term. So we're going to try to make a focal point of our report talking about the new obligations and changes and using that as our starting point. So that's all I have. Thank you.
That's all. That was a lot. Thank you very much. Any questions, or I don't know if the representative's on, if he wants to add anything. No.
Anika Lamar has her hand raised.
Oh. Thank you. Want to go ahead?
Sure, thanks. Tim, what you just said raised a question in my mind, and it was raised by what you said, but it's actually probably not just for your group, but for all of our groups. The things that you described your group is reading are all Connecticut materials, and there's a lot to be learned from outside of Connecticut. There are other states that have local planning requirements. There are other states that actually care what their local affordable housing plans say, to the extent that they will actually reject local affordable housing plans that are bad. Which I know might strike some people here as novel. But it just strikes me that across the board, we all could probably add, Kylie described it in the group that I'm in as homework, but we could all add to our homework things that we might have learned from other states that are doing quite a bit better on this issue than Connecticut is doing right now.
Yeah, that's a point well taken. We've already identified some materials from the American Planning Association. And one of our members, of course, is Melissa Kaplan Macy from the Regional Planning Association, which has done phenomenal work already. So that's that sort of regional resource. But yeah, no, I mean, the stack of stuff that we have to read already just from Connecticut is higher than this table, but we will certainly keep our eyes open for national and regional resources.
Yes. I will send you some things if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think she was noting that she was going to send some additional materials to Tim. Not that she had additional comment.
Okay, thank you, Representative. And thanks for the note for, also looking outside of the state for the plans. I know a couple of the other work groups have done that already, and it is on their listing of things to do as well, so.
A quick question, Martin. Tim, are these the plans that have been filed or submitted available somewhere online?
Yes, but not all in the same place. The Southeast Connecticut Council of Governments has a list. The state chapter of the American Planning Association has a list. I haven't actually compared the two. In approximate numbers, I'm going to guess that there have been about 25 to 30 that have been filed in 2021 or 2022. Which I guess is a great start. On the other hand, there are 169 towns. So, and I know there are some towns that will not meet the deadline, and there are some that will probably put something together in the next 60 days. But Representative Rojas, one of our ongoing challenges is to try to think about a statewide registry without naming names or assigning more work. It's a difficult thing to keep track of 169 municipal plans because, of course, the idea is that they should always be updated. So any organization or agency that proposes to be the host site has just a huge administrative workload. So that's an issue that's already been identified to us.
Okay, got it. And I wondered to what degree that the other COGs, I don't know if, was it Southeast COG that's serving as a repository for that part of the state?
Yes, Amanda Kennedy's group.
Got it. Yeah. So I wonder if there's a conversation we can have with the other COGs to perhaps support us in that function. Not that I'm telling them or anything like that, but at least we know if we make them do it, it won't end up in a fiscal note. I'm just kidding, partly.
That certainly would make sense. Just as an aside, Jocelyn Ayer from Northwest Connecticut is working with 9 different towns, and they're working separately. So she goes to 9 different affordable housing planning meetings every month.
Right. And I'd just like to mention as well that on the affordable housing plans, the legislation that was passed does require that they're posted on the municipal website and sent to OPM to be posted on our website as well. And so we're working with links and everything back to the municipality websites on that for the municipal, affordable housing plans.
Right. And good luck.
Yes. Yeah. And Francis?
Yes, thank you, Martin. On that topic, the Western Connecticut Council of Governments has released a draft regional affordable housing plan that will cover the majority of the region. Well, it covers the entire region, will be adopted by a majority of municipalities in the region. And I'm aware of at least 2 other COGs that have adopted a similar approach.
That's great. Thank you. Anything else for that work group? Okay, great. Then our last work group is sewerage, Senator Christine Cohen and Donna Hamsey.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Donna, thank you.
Okay, great. So Senator Cohen is actually also in the Finance Caucus, so she had asked me to provide the report. We had our initial meeting last week, Thursday, where we had an informational presentation from DEEP on subsurface sewage treatment and disposal systems and their jurisdiction within that scope. Our next meeting is tomorrow, where we have another informational presentation from our colleagues at DPH, providing similar information as to what their jurisdiction is around sewer and water infrastructure. And really, I think the goals, obviously meeting more often from now until our next greater commission meeting, but to also understand fully what impacts this infrastructure has on economic development and housing development in the state, and how perhaps we can make some recommendations to make that more efficient and robust and work better for infrastructure and economic development here. I don't know if my colleague co-chair, Senator Christine Cohen has any comments, or if she is listening and would like to make comments, but I'll turn it over to her if she does. But otherwise, that's where we are for right now.
Thank you, Donna. Unfortunately, the senator's in another meeting. So any questions for this work group? With that, that completes our reports of the working groups. Just a reminder note that in your packets does have a listing of all of the work group meetings that are upcoming with the contacts in there. And with that, we'll go to business. I'll turn it back over to the representative.
No, thank you, Martin. I just want to thank everybody for all of their work. I know there's a number of us on the group who are in the throes of the legislative session, trying to track legislation, keep up with legislators who are still in many ways virtual, although we're in person for some degree. So I know this is just a lot of extra work for everybody. And I really appreciate all the work that's going on, and listening to what was shared even today, as I hear the ongoing debates about some of the housing bills that are currently being considered. I know there's a lot of concerns being raised on a lot of these areas about the bills we're talking about. So I think it reminds me all the more of how important this work is. And the legislature adjourns a month from today. So then all of us will have much more room, or much more time to engage in this work over the summer, when we're all free and not on vacation and really focused on this issue. So just wanted to thank everybody for that. I also want to thank the sessional attorneys who have been assisting the committees with their work, and certainly Erica for keeping us super organized and super efficient, to the point where an hour-and-a-half meeting might only take us 45 minutes if we all behave. And I did see Senator Cohen pop back on. I didn't know if she heard. Your co-chair had referred over to you, didn't know if you wanted to offer any additional comments on your subcommittee. But since you came on and seeing you, I figured I'd recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. No, my co-chair did a fantastic job of reporting out on our subcommittee, and I look forward to our next meeting tomorrow.
Super, thank you. I know the next full meeting of the commission will be on June 6th. And by then, as I just referenced, we'll all have lots of extra time to commit to this. And I don't know if there are any other items that any members of the commission want to bring up at this time.
Just work. Thank you, Representative. Yeah, Tim.
I'm not seeing any hands raised, so go ahead, Martin.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a silly preliminary question, but do we have a vision as to whether the work product of the commission as a whole is going to be one integrated report or 5 separate reports by each of the working groups? Just a question.
So I don't think we've come up with that final plan yet for this. I mean, we decided when this was kind of started was to go to the working groups to kind of establish everything. And that's still part of our process that we have to decide, which sounds similar to one of our other work groups of looking at, the state plan of, conservation development. We have all these other plans. Do we have one plan and then sub pieces, or do we have one overall plan? So that is part of discussion that will come before this full group, as time goes on, unless the representative Rojas has any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think we should aspire to have a comprehensive kind of product of work of all the committees at some point. When that is yet to be determined. But knowing that some of the committees might be able to move at a different pace, I wouldn't want to hold any of the committees back from putting forward something that we could all review and consider, rather than waiting for all the committees to complete their work. So that's an idea coming out of my head at this moment. So that may or may not be a good idea, and I'd welcome feedback from others.
You're welcome. And if I may, we do have a quorum. So if we can go back to item 3 for the approval of the February 4th minutes. If Representative Rojas, if you could take that task.
Sure. The meeting minutes were included in all the materials that were sent out. If there are no corrections that anybody sees that need to be made, I'd welcome a motion to approve the minutes.
Representative, I'm not a voting member, but I will say that there's a spelling error in attendance list for Alexandra, as her last name is spelt incorrectly.
Okay. Maybe why don't we get a motion in a second, and then I know Senator Long has a comment, so we'll come back to him on the minute.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. That was Donna Hamsey. Discussion. Senator Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're kind of holding three different meetings at once. I apologize. But in regards to the item we're talking about, I did have a question in regards to the comments that were attributed to me in regards to TOD and A30G. And I wanted to be clear on the record that it was my hope that on the TOD that we would create a new working group and to address those concerns. I'm not sure that the records kind of reflect that, my desire that we did need to create a new working group to address this concern. That was important to address, but I didn't feel that any of the current working group would be applicable to those concerns. And I believe I'd had my exchange with you, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to get a point of clarification on that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take the minutes, so I can't speak to what they say. From what I remember in our conversation, I thought the conversation was about a separate working group for 8-30G specifically, and not TOD so much, but I could certainly not be remembering correctly. And we had decided at that time that 8-30G would fall under one of the municipal affordable housing plans, as was noted in the update that was given today.
And indeed, that's what I recollected as well. And I think the A30G would fall very well into the affordable housing working group. But the TOD concept is obviously one that is very new, very controversial. And I felt that if there was any point of consideration, I know that was a consideration in the Planning and Development Committee, that a new work group would be convened on that. I just want to be on the record that I'd be more than happy to serve as a co-chair on that as well. So I wanted the record to reflect that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Any other items or corrections or additions? I see mouths moving, but maybe they're not talking about this issue. So, no. All right. If there are no additional comments, Martin, I don't know if anybody in the room has any comments. I'd call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Combination of hands raised and ayes. Any opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, the minutes are approved.
Thank you, Representative. With that, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in? Yes. Yes, Representative McCarthy-Vahey.
Thank you. Hopefully this microphone works a little bit better. Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Jason, also. Just in terms of logistics, I have had some questions from people about following along and being up to date on how the committee's information is shared. And I just wanted to just point out for anyone who may be watching, and I know there are people who actually do watch, which is wonderful. And that's one of the reasons why we did this, because this is the opportunity to broaden the conversation and engage a lot of diverse voices. And I'm grateful that Attorney Hollister pointed that out in terms of the makeup of the groups. They really are diverse and representative groups in many cases, but the information about the commission is shared on the Planning and Development Committee website. There is a link at the bottom, and then each of the working groups has materials. I know that we have recordings of Zoom conversations that are also available, I believe, on the YouTube channel. So I just want to make that known. And just something that we do in municipal government that we don't necessarily have the capacity to do here in the General Assembly, which is folks, for example, who are interested in following our Board of Selectmen meeting, they can sign up and subscribe to receive email updates. We don't have that capacity yet in the General Assembly. So just for those who are watching, keep an eye on that webpage and you can follow along. You certainly can reach out to us at the Planning and Development Committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And as a suggestion, that we should put that link on to the bottom of our agendas as well, just so people will have that there for future. Are there other comments? Anyone else in the room here? Then we'll go on to our virtual. Seeing none others in the room. Erica, is there anyone on virtual? Okay. Terrific then. Then that will end our public comments, and Representative Rojas, I'll turn it back over to you for the last item on the agenda.
Yes, no, again, thank you. I think it's good for us to check on it as a group. Again, I appreciate all the subcommittees doing their work when there's not a lot of eyes or people watching them, but they're nonetheless engaged in a lot of the heavy work that's going to make this commission a success. So it's good to check in and bring everybody up to date. And I think with that, we are okay to adjourn. I don't know if we need a motion for that or anything. But Don, I don't know if you had a comment there or you're itching to make an adjourn us.
No, just you've adjourned us. We're good.
All right. All right.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.